KM Radio, Tony G, Big Lou, the sports book, Super Bowl match. Man, it was unbelievable. A lot to talk about. Going to break down the game. Some of the stuff that me and Big Lou said, I mean, obviously, we did also say that we thought Philly was the better team, but we thought Kansas City could pull it out. But what happened is Philly's front four made the difference for everything, and they were all over Patrick. 6 sacks. The running game was null and void. Worthy did have a good game, 157, but the interceptions really put a hurt on them, and some drop balls. He was 21 for 32. Yeah, 21 for 32. 3 TDs, two interceptions. And everybody's, there's a lot. They took them lightly. I mean, I don't know. I ain't gonna say they took them lightly, but Philly came to play. There's no doubt. Philly came for a purpose. They didn't want to go 0-2 in the Super Bowl. You got to remember, Philly's head coach is from where? Kansas City. You know what I mean? He's a prodigy. He knows.
Right.
He kind of understands how Reed thinks. And really, the last game was, they barely pulled it out, but they won, and that's all that matters.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And like I said, Jalen Hurts, he was 17 for 22.
Yeah, phenomenal game.
Yeah.
Played a great game. Great game.
They put Kenny Pickett in there for a little while, got a little Super Bowl action. That was cool, man. I was like, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
He got to play in the Super Bowl. That's always... Well, I thought that was really cool. Saquon Barkley was not a factor. They were on him. Holy cow, They were on him.
Right. They kept him side to side. Like we said last week, you got to keep him going lateral. That's the only way you're going to keep him from getting those, those long, devastating yards. But from the first kickoff, that front four of the Philadelphia's defense had the game under control. Kansas City couldn't get anything going. They couldn't get into a rhythm. Like you said earlier, drop passes, interceptions. It's like when you're being rushed like that, it's hard for you to get your rhythm going. Because I'm pretty sure had earlier in the game, if they had a kind of got that rhythm going, they probably would have been fine. And they did score 22 points, but I count them as garbage time points because they had 6 points in the third quarter.
Correct.
So those other 14 points, I just call them garbage time points because the game was already won. But hats off to the Philadelphia Eagles. They are, Super Bowl champions. I feel for Dallas, New York, and Washington will give them a run for their money because that was an awesome NFC game. But yeah, I could just imagine what New York's going through.
Oh, yeah, I know, right? He got a ring.
He got a ring.
Kind of a slap back. A lot of people, it's today, it's not that long after the Super Bowl hours. You break it down. People always overreact. Kansas City's done. They're not done. They'll be back.
No,
they're gonna retool. I'm sure there was some stuff on film that a lot of people were watching. One thing about Philly's front fours, those are some big guys. They got some monsters up there. Yeah, and you look at Sweat had 2.5 sacks. Hunt had a half. Williams had 2. I mean, they were on him. I mean, they were everywhere.
Yeah.
And if they weren't sacking him, they were all over him.
Yeah, they were knocking him down, disrupted it. Yeah.
And
he didn't get anything.
couldn't, and he was holding the ball longer than he usually does. Usually
Mm-hmm.
he'd throw it away, but man, they were um, Philly, like Philly was on them, um,
Mm-hmm.
and and then you waited for, and I'm sure, well, I mean, I'm sure we're not the only ones. You waited and you thought, well, Kansas City's going to make adjustments. They're going to make
Right.
adjustments,
Yeah. There's gonna be some
especially going in.
halftime. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
gonna be some
yeah,
halftime adjustments made. They're gonna come back out here on this third quarter, and then we're gonna see a football game.
and it didn't
And it
happen.
was it did happen. It was just the same all the way through. They just had their
And
number.
they had, yeah, that was like when Tampa beat them. I mean, Tampa beat
Yeah,
them,
they had
and
their number.
when we were talking last week, and some people were like, "Oh, but I said, man, Philly's a better team on paper. There's no doubt. I said it. San Francisco was a better
Everybody said it.
better team. Yeah, San Francisco was a better team twice, and they still
Yeah.
beat them. And so it was like, well, man, is this going to be? And I just hated to bet against the machine, and maybe that was a mistake because I had some people that were betting serious money on the Eagles. I managed to catch the over at 42, so
Mhm.
that actually won enough to cover the two bets on the Chiefs to win because at one point, like I said earlier, the Chiefs were plus 17, and I thought, well, they're going to come back and make a not necessarily win, but I thought, well, they'll
Mhm.
come back and make a game of it, and
Right.
they a little bit did. If they would have scored one more, the 17 would have helped. But those two strikes, and then when I saw the two strikes, and you saw the fastest man in the league make that touchdown, you said, "Well, where has this been?" You know what I mean? Like where? Because when they
Right.
made those two strikes, it was like, okay, okay, but
Whoa.
but why hasn't this been? There was nothing. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I
Why?
mean
What? Yeah. What was exactly? I agree.
they were three and out. Um, let me see. Let me see. Kansas City punting. Trying to pick up standings, and they
Yeah,
they
because it's
just
just
had
amazing.
the
Yeah. Yeah.
no. Go
It's
ahead,
just
Luke.
amazing. You look at this the score summary, and it's all Philadelphia except for three plays. It's like I'm looking at the scoring summary of the game, and it's just wow. They're
Yeah,
yeah, they didn't start doing anything really until uh 34 seconds, like 34 seconds left in the third, after the
yeah.
game was already won. So I just count them as garbage time points. But yeah, it's wasn't the game I expected. I thought it was going to be a closer game, going to be a dramatic finish to the game, but Kansas City was just not ready, and they hadn't seen a defense like Philadelphia's all season.
No,
So it's just shocking to me that they didn't show up for the game, knowing that, how important, the NFL history that they were trying to make. You would, cross your T's and dot your I's and, look out for any little thing, that could disrupt it. But mentally, when they couldn't do what they wanted to do, it seemed like everybody was in a state of confusion.
I haven't heard any. I haven't seen a Patrick Holmes interview. I know there was one, but I didn't see.
Right.
Um, I didn't see the. I didn't see it. I think again. I think they underestimated the front four of Philly. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you have to say that. Like, and the Eagles also throwing this in. The Eagles played a perfect game against them. They
Mm-hmm.
played a perfect game. They played a flawless game, other than the one interception. Um,
Right.
and you got to look at that and their scheme. They had the right scheme. They executed it. Um, and I'm sure for Philly, a lot was sitting on them 2 years ago with that last second win, and I'm sure that
Mm-hmm.
had some. It was either going to define them or break them. And we talked
Right.
about that. Jalen Hurts, if he was to lose, then he was going to have this monkey on his back going, "We can't beat Patrick Mahomes. You're 0-2
Right.
against him." And that kind of haunts a lot of people. But he managed to overcome that. Um,
Hmm.
he managed to overcome it. And I think they shocked. I really think they shocked a lot of people about how. I mean, I know there's people that obviously that believe the Eagles were going to win. They bet on them. I don't know if they were expecting them to be as dominant as they were, because they were just.
Right.
I mean, bottom line was they were flat out dominant. I mean, they basically dominated the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. That's it. I mean, I mean,
Mhm.
at the end of the day, um, that's exactly what happened. And like you said, the 22 points, they were like a lot of other people with a lot of great stats. It's like, yeah, they call them empty stats. Yeah,
Right. Right.
you were behind by 30 and you put up 400 yards passing because they were letting you pass the ball, trying to eat the clock down. Um,
Hmm.
so and they have Reed's agreed he's going to play. He's going to coach 2 more years. I know that's so he's got 2 more
Okay.
years. And I think, look, I don't know about Kelsey. I haven't heard anything because I wasn't like if they won, I really thought Kelsey was going to retire.
I did too.
I mean, I don't know that to be true. I don't have any. I just thought been in the league 13 years, got 4 Super Bowls. I mean, at some
Right.
point you gotta go. Well, hey, what am I?
What am I doing it for?
Yeah,
It's my heart and soul. It's my heart and soul really into going through this grind another season and another season, you know.
right. That's exactly.
So,
So Patrick Mahomes had 133 starts. That was his worst showing ever.
mhm.
It says total quarterback rating of 11.4. His second worst performance in 133. I stand for 133 starts.
Huh.
Um, and like I said, the Eagles had a game plan and the
Mhm.
game plan was to disrupt him, and that they did. And that's he's been disrupted before, but they've managed to put it together. But that
Right.
defense,
They had
that
them guessing.
defense was, oh man, they were just coming. They would
Mhm.
not. They were relentless. I mean, they were just on it and on it. And hats off to the coordinator, defensive
Yeah.
coordinator for Philly. My gosh, man, you you deserve that Super Bowl win, and it'll be interesting to
Yeah.
see who Philly can keep because after a
Right.
Super Bowl, but I have a funny feeling that they should be able to retain a lot of people because they have an awesome team, and
Mhm.
maybe they can repeat. Um,
Yeah.
because they definitely have. I mean, they started the season 2-2, had some
Mhm.
issues. I remember the coach was getting aggravated,
Yeah.
but
Yep.
they managed to
Sirianni
settle.
shaved.
Yeah,
Yep. Shaved his head, and it was been. And he shaved all his hair off, and it was on after
it was.
that.
I mean, they were.
But yeah, they had some. But it's Philly, and their fans are very. Their fans are just as strong as New York fans.
Sure.
They believe they are very passionate about their team, and they will hold you accountable. So, but like I said, hats off to them. Kansas City had no answer for Philly's front four, and they had Patrick Mahomes. Like you say, he was out of his wits. Nobody could gather the troops in, or that, hey, everybody, we got to power through this. You could try that, but if nothing's working and you steady looking at this clock and they steady scoring points, doubt sits in. And that's why when they showed that shot of all of them sitting on the bench just looking confused,
Yes.
that's what that is. You can't figure it out. We can't do anything. We're dropping easy passes. they really got our number. And I think when after their third score, I think that's when they was like, "Oh, we're not finna beat these guys. We're gonna give it our all," but no one had confidence that they were gonna come back and beat them guys in that game because it would have been those 22 points would have been in the second half.
Yes, in the third quarter, they would have been
Mm-hmm.
in the third quarter. And when they put those 22 points up, it was out of desperation not to get
Right.
blown out as bad as they did. And
Right.
Kareem Hunt, Pacheco, the running game was null and void.
No,
Patrick
non-existent.
non-existent, which they had relied on a lot this year, and it wasn't there. So went to Patrick throwing the ball, and he looked questionable. His confidence level, and like I said, they were getting at him, and he was holding the ball so long. And a lot of times, he just and hats off to the secondary of Philly
Mm-hmm.
because he was keeping the ball so long, and he just couldn't get rid of it, and he
Yeah.
took
Can
some
nobody get
sacks,
open?
couldn't get nobody open, and they were all over him, grabbing him. Um, and I think, I mean, like I said, there's gonna be people watching that film. I mean, that defensive of game that Philly had. They're gonna be watching that
Mm-hmm.
film for a minute because, like I said, that was a
Yeah.
masterpiece how to handle
Right.
the Kansas. And like I said, they did what we said was if they could jump out, Kansas. If you look at Kansas City all season, they had pulled it out. Everybody was complaining. They pulled out.
Mm-hmm.
The Bills beat them. I'm bringing that up. The Bills beat them 9 points, a couple seconds, whatever was left, so they couldn't win that game. But every other game that had 90% of the other games they won, I mean, they were right there in it the whole time, and they were able to capitalize. Well,
Mm-hmm.
yesterday they were taken out. They were taken out of the loop. They weren't in control. They were playing from behind.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't do well playing from behind. That's not how they're built. Um, Philly's a grinder too. Usually Philly grinds and grinds, and a lot of times the Philly makes for a lot of boring games. You know what I mean? They run the
Right.
clock and but one thing I will say is so they took Barkley out of the game basically, and then Jalen
Mm-hmm.
picked up the slack. You know what I mean? He made plays,
Yeah.
um, and that's huge. You know what I mean? So they took out the star. They took out star running back because he only had 57 yards. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and Jalen picked up and carried that team um, offensively, and he moved the ball. And like I said, he had a decent day. I mean,
Yeah.
221 yards, two TDs. He got sacked twice for 11 yards.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Patrick got sacked six times for 31 yards. He couldn't get in that pocket. That pocket would not stay up for him. They were just all over
No.
him. And that
No, they couldn't.
outside, yeah, yeah, and that outside pressure, it was killing him. You know what I mean? He couldn't set up for anything. What I was kind of surprised was I was surprised that they didn't start rolling out more. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Kind of the old
Yeah.
West
Some
Coast
bootlegs
offense.
and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Saying, hey, man, they're coming in too fast. Let's try to slow them down. Um, but like you said, they were only rushing four.
Only the front four. No blitz
Yes.
packages.
Yeah.
So they could
So, I
play the
mean,
so with the front four applying pressure, now the corners and the safeties can stick that can stay on their assignments. So
yes.
now you have to hold the ball because those quick slants, those quick outs, they're not there. And now I got this defensive lineman in my face. I got to scramble. I got to look to see if somebody's open. Nobody's open. Everybody's still in coverage. Linebackers are
Right.
playing back now. They can send one Mike back in through the gap with the front forward setting, and the other ones can sit right there in the flat. So I don't have my over
Right.
the middle. I don't have my slant, my slot, you know,
They
and
took that. They took
they took
all
it
that
away from them.
away. Yes, they
Mm-hmm.
took it away from him, and they took control over the line of scrimmage. So there was none of that. It was all. they controlled they were controlling the beat of the heart, as they say, and they were
Hmm.
just our front four get enough pressure. He never got. I mean, if they blitzed, I can't remember which play they blitzed on. It was if they did, maybe it was twice. They didn't have
Right.
to. You know, what I mean, they didn't have to. So, like you said,
Mm.
so now you got seven guys in the backfield. You know, now you got seven guys back there. Where if you at least if you would have had any kind of offense, they would have felt obligated to do a little blitzing. They had no
Hmm.
obligation to the blitz at all because you couldn't cover. And the other thing that I thought was strange was I thought after seeing him get sacked and him having problems, they would have brought a back there to help block. And they
Right.
did a player, but not enough to. I'm like, what are you guys doing? You're not trying to stop this rush, or you're. I
Right.
maybe the thought process was we're gonna stop it, and I don't know what it was because they didn't. I would have thought maybe they could have brought a back there to help
Hmm.
block. They could have brought a tight end back there, an extra tight
Yeah.
end to help
Noah Gray.
block. Yeah, something.
Yeah.
But they were determined to prove that they could move the ball, and it just
Right.
was a
Didn't happen for him.
no. It was terrible. I mean, it really was terrible. It was just like, wow, I can't believe we're not making any adjustments. I don't know. I don't want to use the word arrogant or they were that confident or that wasn't the game plan that he had. But like I said, when they
Right.
went in for the halftime, even though they were behind, it was 24-0. And I did think the
Hmm.
game was over, but I thought, well, man, he's going to make some changes. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like
They're gonna
something,
adjust during the halftime. They're gonna make some adjustments, you know. But
but it didn't seem like they just couldn't. I mean, I thought maybe they changed some assignments. Like I said,
right.
bringing in that tight end to crash down against
Hmm.
the end. Um, it just not whatever they threw at them, it just wasn't working. And that front four just dictated the whole game. Kept
Hmm.
Patrick Mahomes um, on his back foot, and he didn't like it. You know what I mean? It didn't. I mean, none of them. No, none of them like it. It ain't just him. Like, oh, people always say, oh man, all you had to do was get the Tom Brady. Well, yeah, that sure, but
Easier said
seven.
than done.
Yeah, right. Easier said than done. Seven Super Bowls later, it's like, well, yeah, that's all you had to do. Um, but going forward, like I said, the Chiefs are fine. Um,
Yeah.
and they may
Yeah.
have, going forward, depending on all who they lose, or and the same thing with Philly. Um,
Hmm.
it could be a little because Philly's offensive coordinator is going to be y'all's coach, right?
He's they say they believe they haven't confirmed it, but it's a high probability that he's gonna take that Saints coaching job and he has some people in mind that he wants to form his staff with. So yeah. So Kellen Moore is most likely headed to New Orleans.
What's funny is Philadelphia wins the Super Bowl, and what last year they made him fire all his staff, and they hired all the staff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's a
Yeah.
interesting.
So
It's a little footnote there that last year Philly fired everyone. Management brought their people in, and
mhm.
so um, sometimes offensive coordinators have a good. I don't know. It's kind of weird every time an offensive coordinator like that, their offensive coordinator, you just win a Super Bowl. Maybe you don't. I don't know. I would think I would ride it out for another Super Bowl. I mean, Super Bowls
Yeah,
are
yeah. I'm trying
they're
to
so
get as
hard to
much
come by.
hardware as I can because
Yes.
what that's going to do is once I any Super Bowl that I lose after that, I could charge. That just
Yeah.
makes your price go up. Two-time Super Bowl champion.
Yeah.
So
Two-time
that
Super
that
Bowl
that
champion. That's for sure. I mean, it's interesting. I understand they all want to be a head coach, even though that comes with a lot. You know what I mean? A
it
lot of
comes with a
hours,
lot.
a lot. Yeah, and nothing against the Saints. They have the worst cap in all of the league. You know what I mean?
Oh
Like they're
yeah,
gonna, yeah. I mean,
yeah. They're in cap purgatory,
yeah. They
and
got what 2 years left on. Would you say 2 years left in there?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, but you watch a Sean Payton. He got Bo Nix to be good, and so he got him
Mm-hmm.
cheap. So they pretty much ate the money. They're eating the money, so they're good for the next couple years. Acquiring young players that are on
Yeah.
rookie contracts. So there is hope there. It's not
Mm-hmm.
totally impossible by any means, but
Right.
it's going to be a rough job. If I don't know, you just kind of think about. But I guess just the allure of being a head coach, being in
Yeah.
charge,
Mm-hmm.
and going and running your own operation. I guess that's just such the lure. And then it'll be interesting to see who they get to be their next offense coordinator.
Right. Right.
Um,
So yeah,
good
so
go.
he's gonna have to do some shopping himself.
Yes, he's going to have to do because I'm sure he's not keeping anybody. I'm sure he's going to bring in his own people, his own
Mm-hmm.
staff. Um, and then, like I said, Kansas City's got 2 more years with Andy Reid, and they probably got 5 more years with Patrick Mahomes. Um, so it'll be interesting to see what happens there. There's going to
Yeah.
be some, yeah. Because one thing about Kansas City is they steadily making acquisitions. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
they're steadily on the move. That's one thing that I admire about them. I mean, they lost yesterday. Okay, they did. They got manhandled. But
Mm-hmm.
what is it? The last 5 years, they've been to the Super Bowl 4 times, and they
Yeah.
got 3 Super Bowls. I mean, they're good. You know what I'm saying? I
Mm-hmm.
mean,
They're good to go.
so yeah, they're good to go. So I mean, it ain't like they make it. That media always blows it up like it's over, they're done, it'll never happen
Mm-hmm.
again, and that's not. I mean, that's just part of football.
Right.
And they'll be fine. And like I said, it'll be interesting. I mean, usually a team when they win a Super Bowl, the next year is a lag.
Yeah.
Usually.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Mm-hmm.
they lose a lot of players, this and that. I mean, Tom played after he won at Tampa, couldn't get the magic
Mm-hmm.
back. You know what I mean? So that
Right.
being said, I mean, it's not always repeat, triple. I mean, come on, it's kind
Right.
of like the people are being a little bit. All right. So when we get back, we got a lot of basketball news to talk about. Um, Did the Lakers make a good trade? I don't know. We have a lot to talk about there. I'm
Oh
starting to
yeah.
question. Yeah, so we got
Oh
that
yeah.
to talk about. Want to thank everyone at KM Radio that makes all this possible. To our guy Elaw, right here on KM Radio, Tony G, Big Lou, Tuesday night, 8 o'clock, KM Radio, where we go. Air.
Damn.
KM Radio, where we go ham. It's Tony G, Big Lou, the sports book every Tuesday night. Don't forget, if you want to reach out to us, go to our webpage, Sportsbook, KM Radio. You got an event, advertise, want to be a sponsor on the show, want us to bring you up in the business highlight, we just reach out to us. All right, we covered the Super Bowl. Let's go to basketball.
All right.
We were talking off camera. You said AD's already hurt.
Yes. AD has suffered a abdominal pull. It was something that happened to him before, and he just tweaked it because he had a monstrous game. The first
He
half, he
did.
was clicking on all cylinders. I guess he was showing that this trade's not a fluke. I'm here to help you guys, get to the chip. And as one of the players was coming down the court, and AD went to go for the block, he must have pulled that muscle in his abdomen that was already injured, and he went down, and he's going to be out for weeks. They report until it heals.
And then
So
going,
Kyrie Irving had to replace him on the in the All-Star game.
okay. So going to LA, we talked about this off camera. You feel
Hmm.
like LA got the better of the deal, even though Luca's not in good shape and he doesn't play good defense.
Right. But and the reason why I think the Lakers got the best of the trade is because now you have a Luca that has something to focus on. I got to get these guys back. You know, I bought a $15 million house and I got traded the next day.
Right.
So, he's got armor, he's got ammo to make himself motivated. And then every superstar or star player that plays with LeBron, they get better. They absorb that knowledge that he gives them, and because a lot of people talk. I won't say a lot of people, but you got them out there that talk bad about LeBron and how he's privileged and all of that. But he takes care of the game. He shares the knowledge that he has of the game with all the superstars. He
Right.
talks to the youngsters, and some of us are just gonna have to get out of the '80s way of playing, '80s and the '90s, early '90s way of playing basketball. That's not going to happen anymore. These guys are
No.
worth too much money to these owners and these investors. So they're going to make the game to where it is not as ruthless as it was back during the Magic, Bird, Jordan era, just like with football. But they got to understand these guys are businesses now, and you have to protect your assets.
Well, that's a good point. I mean, everything changes. NFL, um, NFL, the NBA. As time goes on, you learn stuff, and you try to protect the players, like you said. And just
Right.
trying to protect the players. Period. I mean, it was. Do I miss seeing Lester Hayes molest
Oh yeah.
people? Wide receiver. I mean, yeah, it was something. It don't happen like that no more. You can't see Jack Tatum stiff arm somebody while they're running around. You can't do
No,
that.
you
Yeah, and then
can't
yeah,
do
then
that.
and maybe we should have been smart enough to go. Maybe that wasn't a good idea to let them do that. I don't know. That might have left a mark. I don't know. You think that? I mean, so yeah, we grow as a society, and yes,
Right.
basketball has changed. It is what it is, and that's one thing that I've learned is I hate. It's always great to talk about what if and
Hmm.
could could Floyd Mayweather beat Hagler, and could it's just, man, that was a different era,
Yeah.
and things have changed. Can Bird play now? Can Magic play now? Just a lot of stuff. And it's a different game. I do
Hmm.
think this though. I do think this. I think Magic Larry, um, um, Magic Larry, and MJ. I do think they could have thrived in the league
Yeah.
now, and the reason being is because all three of them gentlemen can shoot. And
Hmm.
them guys were shooting while being mugged. So
Yeah.
now, with not being mugged, yes, I think they could have put up some points. There's no,
Hmm.
what I'm saying, there's not a Dennis Rodman or the guy from Detroit. What's his name from Detroit? Lambeer.
Yeah. There's
You
no
know,
Bam
yeah,
Lambeer. Yeah.
yeah,
No Charles Oakley. None of those
no Charles
guys.
Oakley. Yeah. So
Yeah.
for the
Their
most
job.
part,
That was their job.
yeah, they were enforcers. That's what they did. They
Hmm.
made you pay every time that you made a basket. You're like, golly, I had to get punched in the head for that. Yeah, that was pretty much how it goes.
Yeah.
But yeah, but it is a different game, and you're 100% right. Things are
Hmm.
different. But what hasn't changed in the NFL and the NBA is great defenses still win championships.
Right.
You know what I
Defense
mean?
still wins championships.
Yeah, fundamentals are still fundamentals. You know what I mean? Like that's the
Hmm.
basics. And when you
Yeah.
when you have if your team has great fundamentals, usually you are in a good position to win. So that part of the
Absolutely.
game has never changed. Some of the other antics have, of course, but and like I said, I look at the trade and you have to wonder like what was Dallas? Was Dallas well, here's the difference now. Dallas has a different owner, and they may have not wanted to pay Luca the money. Okay.
No, they
And
didn't.
it's easy to go, well, he don't play defense well, and he don't okay, that's fine, but he does a lot of other stuff great. You know what I mean? It's like not every player has their own attributes what they put to the game, and he had his.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Team leader, great shooter, just so yeah, he doesn't play. He's not a defensive player. There's other guys, that's what they do. Um, and he is younger than AD,
Mm-hmm.
hasn't had as many injuries as AD. Um, Now, if AD could stay healthy all the time, there could be an
Yeah.
argument of who got the better trade.
Right.
Because AD, I mean, if AD healthy, if you could say, hey, AD's going to be healthy for 2 years, that's a bad man. That's a
Mm-hmm.
big bad man. But you can't guarantee that, and that's something that's always haunted him is the
Right.
injuries. And it'll be interesting to see where the Lakers end up and Dallas ends up because they're both in the Western Conference.
Mm-hmm.
So that, and I'm sure that's going to be a lot of talk, and it'd be interesting to
Yeah.
see. A lot of times, just like Saquon Barkley, they got rid of Saquon Barkley. Yes, he got the last laugh. He ran for 2,000 yards,
Mm-hmm.
Super Bowl ring. Yes, but I will say this: you never know exactly. You know what I
Right.
mean? It's easy to look at
Right.
the end and go, well, man, they should have never. And God forbid, what if Barkley would have torn another ACL? Then that
Right.
guy would be the.
Yeah, it'd be the slowest.
You're gambling. It's hard to tell. Yeah, right. Uh, trade with in this trade with the Lakers. I mean, in this, Dallas has got some. If AD's healthy, I would like to see what they could do on like a 15 game run with AD healthy. It would be very interesting.
Right.
Would Clay, Kyrie, I mean they got a team. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but at the same time, if Luca could drop a little weight, you know what I mean, and be a
Mm-hmm.
little more efficient, I mean him and the Lakers, him and LeBron could be very scary together. You know what I mean?
Right.
Um there there's no doubt. And then you look at the and Butler went to where'd Butler go?
He went to Golden State.
He went to Golden State. Now, how much of an impact is Jimmy Butler going to have at Golden State?
Well, he's that Jimmy Butler can take the role that Draymond had. Draymond was like the on court coach,
Yeah,
the motivator, the he was personnel. Not so much because when he gets fired up, that's when he gets fines, and they be ready to throw him at him. Jimmy is that guy that can, he can get his shot when he wants it.
right.
He can score too, but he can also like run the point, and let Steph move around, set picks, confuse his defender and get open for that shot. Doesn't matter. He's going to throw it up and look back at the crowd. It's going to go in. But it definitely helps because Jimmy he attacks the rim. So that's definitely going to help. It's going to be a lot of pick and rolls and go in and kick outs with those guys. No, I don't
And
think they're
so,
quite ready yet to make any noise in the playoffs per se. But with Jimmy Butler, they're going to be a better team than they were.
without Jimmy Butler, well, so
Yeah.
here's the thing with Golden State is I think Steph's got 2 years left.
Hmm.
I mean, I think he's been in the league a long time, and I mean, these guys play all just like LeBron. I'm really surprised that LeBron hasn't said, it's been a long time. I've had a good run, and I want to move to my next segment of my life, which you can't help. And LeBron does catch a lot of like for a long time. I didn't like LeBron, and not that I didn't like him because I knew him because I didn't.
Right.
He was he was the golden child. He was the, what I mean, he left Cleveland, which that was what really that's when I really started disliking him. But then he went
Mm-hmm.
back to Cleveland, and then you had to go, okay, he went back to Cleveland and won a championship.
Won a
Man,
championship.
now I gotta
Yeah.
like him. God, that's
Now I gotta
God,
like this
okay.
guy now.
Yeah, yeah. Now he went back to his hometown, but he left. Didn't really like the way he left. But things. You handle things at different ages, different ways. I think he
Right.
should have just left. That was my thing with him. Is I don't think it should have been that much media. It should have been he left. That was it, and then he could have talked
Yeah.
about it. But it's
Right.
here nor there. But yeah, I mean, he's one of the greatest players. I mean, we could argue if he is the greatest player or whatever. He's one of the greatest players ever to play, Hall of Fame bound.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's however you want to sum up the greatest player. I think that's another objective that there's a lot of people in that. We
Right.
could
A lot
go.
of people
I mean,
in
because
there
yeah,
and
yeah, because you have to start. To me, when you say the greatest, there's a lot of people that are in there that you could go wilt to stilt. But I mean, you
right.
start going because you can't dismiss people just because you never watched film on them play, um,
Right.
or some of the great Boston players. Um, you can go on and on about a lot of players. So it's all about era. He's the most relevant because he's still playing. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. All kind. It's just you can go on and on. So, but yeah,
Right.
had a great deal. Now let me ask you this: do you think? And I asked this to someone. I asked this to someone. They thought I was crazy. I said,
Mhm.
I said, you think Oklahoma is for real? And they said, are you kidding me? They're 42-9. And I said, the reason why I ask is I watched them play in the NBA Cup,
Mm-hmm.
and they were terrible. And I know one game don't define you, but so my question was is that how they're going to play in the playoffs? Was the pressure too much? I don't know. It just kind of they look so
Yeah.
bad. I was just
Mm-hmm.
like, and I know they got the best league in the league. They got the best record by one over Cleveland.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you think they have I mean, they as good as the record says they are, or is the schedule soft?
I'm going to have to go with the record. I think
Okay.
I think the record's where it stands. I think, they're just cruising through, playing a small ball, trying to figure the opponent out. And as we get further down in these games, we'll see the intensity go up with them. I think they're just trying to figure out and get a feel of the moment.
Now, I will say this: I am surprised by the Rockets being as good as they are this year. I
Yeah,
was
the
kind of
Rockets
right.
surprised me.
Yeah, they're having a good year, um, playing really well. Kind of surprised. I mean, they really fell off there for a minute. There's a couple other the Grizzlies. I mean, we talked about them last year. That's a good team. I mean,
Hmm.
they're good. Them and the Timberwolves. Um, that's a good young team. They're having a little bit of, well, I wouldn't say a little bit of, they're having a little bit of issues right now, but
Hmm.
they're a good team. Um, but some of the other ones that the Utah slipped away. Remember a couple years ago we were talking they had a serious
Yeah.
chance of winning the title, and now they're just dismantled. The Pelicans, I don't know. I guess they're going to get another first round draft pick, and you find somebody that wants Zion. I mean, what do you do with them?
Uh, Zion has to be traded. Zion has to be traded. They got to put him in another. They got to put him. They got to send him somewhere so that they can get their identity back as a team. Like what identity of this team are you trying to portray out in the media? And
Right.
if the Zion's of the world is not going to be able to, hold to the nutrition value of it, then you have to cut your ties. Cut your ties,
Okay.
try to get a lot for them, and then put them out there. See who snatches them up.
They just haven't had, they had AD down there. They just haven't been able to put together a good team. Whether it's management or they're not taking the basketball as serious as they take the football. You don't,
Right.
hey, when you have dual, watch out for that. All right. Because they're owned by the New Orleans Saints, basically, right? Same owner.
Yeah.
So
Same owner.
when you break that down, maybe they're not as attentive on the basketball. Um, and I would hate for them. And so to me, what happens is we're having this conversation about my Buffalo Sabres. For years and years and
Hmm.
years, the Sabres were always in the hunt. They went to the finals two times, lost, always sold out, always. But then had some issues with an owner, with some crazy stuff, got bought and
Hmm.
sold a couple times. And now, somebody said, well, when you become irrelevant, that's when people come in and buy you and move you. And that's where
Right.
that's where I feel like the Pelicans could be at. You know what I mean? Like somebody come in and put them somewhere else, because the team's not really relevant. Nobody's really putting the
Right.
effort in. I mean, there's them. There's the Washington Wizards. There's it's like, man, the product is bad. Does somebody want to move? Because Vegas wants a basketball team,
Right.
and they're going to get the Oakland A's. They're going to get the Oakland A's, and they want a
Okay.
basketball and they want a basketball team. But you look at like Oakland, the Golden State don't play in Oakland. They don't have a
Mm.
football team. They're about to lose. They're about to lose the A's, and so you have to go. Is the city not working with this organization? You know what I mean? Like they've been playing in that same old stadium,
Right.
baseball, football. It's um, and you really can't compete,
Right.
and you just have to go. Well, the cities that want their teams are making things happen.
Hmm.
Stadiums and um, because really stadiums are becoming like a resort. It's becoming a resort experience. I mean,
Right.
you go to see the Cowboys and the Rangers and Texas Live. I'm not giving them a promo, but Texas Live is in between there. It's got one of the biggest
Hmm.
sports bars I've ever seen. I think it holds 4,000. It's unbelievable. It's an event.
Wow.
You went to a game. You stood at the hotel. I ain't saying it was a cheap event. I'm just saying, but it's an experience. You go, hey man, I
Yeah. You
got
pay for
and this
experience.
yeah, and you could literally walk from Texas Live to the stadium to Dallas, or you can go to the Rangers. So it's right there.
Wow.
So it's an experience, and a lot of these places have shopping, uh, a lot of restaurants. The Mavericks. I don't know if any of y'all have never, if you haven't been to the Maverick games in a long time, they have restaurants now that now the best way I can describe is like you could sit at the restaurant, eat, and it's right there. You're watching the game. and that's how and that's how
Dang.
the Raiders have a whole section down there with all couches and everything, and it has
Mm.
your own. I'm not like I said, I'm not saying it's cheap, but they're catering to a lot of corporate stuff, and there's couches and TVs in your section, and it's basically floor level. You're on the field. It's in
Right.
the corners of the end zone. It's an unbelievable experience. It's like, wow, that's so these stadiums are becoming event centers. You know what I mean? They're not
Hmm.
the old
Hot
metal
dog and
bench
foil
seats.
paper.
Yeah, 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 metal seat that you're uncomfortable going,
Yeah.
God, my back's about. And that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying is, so these cities are missing out. Um, and I know we're talking billion dollar stadiums, but I'm just saying. So
Hmm.
you have to kind of wonder like, hey, where are we going? But that being said, it's not always about a big market. I guess it all depends on how involved the owner is in making it the best. Because hey, we've seen in the last 5 years we got to see Milwaukee Bucks win a title. We got to see the Denver Nuggets win a title. You know what I mean? Those are two. I mean, and really, Golden State we talk about, but for 25 years nobody talked about Golden State. They won a title in
No.
in the 70s. I mean, so it's cool seeing these. smaller markets, these teams that
Yeah.
people haven't talked about, and they become relevant. Just like what LeBron did with Cleveland. I mean,
Hmm.
that was a very unrelevant basketball team. You know what I mean? And now they're
Right.
having success, second best record in basketball,
Hmm.
and some people arguably has a very serious chance of winning another NBA title, um,
Right.
which is pretty impressive. And then you got the Memphis Grizzlies, which if you ever been to Memphis, Memphis is a big small city. It's not like it's
Yeah.
millions and millions. It's a small market. It's about the same size as New Orleans-ish in that deal. Um,
Hmm.
so it's cool seeing these teams from smaller markets make a run because I think it's
Yeah.
always good for professional sports. We got the USFL coming up. That'll start. And I'll tell you this about the USFL. I don't gamble on it, but the games that I have watched have not been terrible. They have not
Hmm.
been terrible. They've been pretty decent. But I wish the NFL would get more involved in them. And and the thing when I say this is I don't think you can make it. You're not going to make it the NFL, but I think it could be used as a fun. It could be used as a fun farm league, and the cities
Hmm.
that have the teams get behind them, and they'll have
Right.
just like minor league. It ain't gonna be. We're all not gonna. Ain't gonna be 8 million people watching the game, but
Right.
the cities that have those teams like Birmingham and all that, they're big enough to where they could put 30, 40,000 people in. You know, because there's some double A or triple A teams in baseball that we have never heard of that they sell out every night. You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, there's a lot,
Right.
there's a lot of them. And then there's some Bull Durhams across the United States. There ain't no lie. Hit the
Hmm.
cow and the cow goes, "Rrr," yeah.
Yeah.
You want a steak, you get a free. Yeah, there's plenty of that. But I think some of that we've got away from, and I think it'd be cool if the
Hmm.
NFL got. I mean, they tried NFL Europe, which I don't. Lou, that's one thing about me is they're going to have a game in Brazil. Why do they just keep
Yeah.
trying to shove the NFL down Europe's throat? I just, and these poor guys got to travel. You know what I mean through a real time zone. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just one of those things, but I think it's going. But like we got March Madness coming up, we got the NBA, we got NHL. Yes,
Hmm.
it's so crazy because we waited for the season, and now the season's over. We
It's
talked
over
about
with.
it, yeah, and it goes and comes, and the NFL is so magical, especially in
Yeah.
sports betting. And I know people are like, well, man, there's plenty. I'm not saying there's not, but the NFL is king when it comes to sports betting. I
Hmm.
mean, you got horse racing, and you got, like I said, March Madness. You got college baseball that will be coming up as far as like the playoffs. Yeah, there's lots of stuff, but the NFL is king. You know what I mean? For
Hmm.
17 weeks, you got regular season, and they were throwing around. He was throwing an extra week, and I just think that's stupid
Yeah.
making it 18. Because I think we're at the peak because there's this. I mean, because if you throw another game in the NFL, that means we're not having any preseason. I mean,
And we saw the injuries from not having a
yes,
preseason. Your body
yes,
your body has to get adjusted or accustomed to getting hit all of the time, especially if you're playing lineman or something like that.
yeah,
You gotta let your body take a little bit of bruising just to get everything lined up or to
yeah.
for pre-snap. So
Well,
I agree.
you look at the season now and you realize that it's 6 months. If you don't make the
Yeah.
playoffs, it's 6 months. If you make the playoffs, it's 7 months. And so you got if you make like Kansas City and Philly, they got 5 months to heal up. And it may
Okay.
sound like a lot, but there's some guys that they probably need a year. You know what I mean? There's some
Hmm.
hamstrings, there's some bruises, some ripped tendons, the things that really need to heal that takes a lot of time. And I just think when he threw out the 18th game, I was just like, So this guy's pushing. I get it, the money, 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 but I think we've
Right.
reached our limit of 18 games. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they've let them expand their roster, which I think is cool. They're paying
Right.
practice squad more than they've ever paid them. So I mean, there was some good that came out of it, but yeah, injuries have definitely become a major factor on with the season being as long as it is.
Right.
All right, guys, man, another Tuesday night in the books, man. We talked about it all. The Super
Mm-hmm.
Bowl, the NBA, talked about some trades. We're going to tune in next week, Tuesday night. I want to thank everyone again for tuning in every Tuesday night, 8 o'clock. And like I said, reach out to us. Sportsbook, KM Radio, Facebook pages, DM us. They'll get back to you in a very prompt time. Whether you have an event you want to talk about, or if you want to be on the air, I mean, you can put in all kind of requests. They'll evaluate it all at the office. Um, our one and only leader, Elaw, he'll look at it. He'll evaluate the situation. All right, man. I want to
Mm-hmm.
thank everyone for tuning in every Tuesday night. Tony G, Big Lou, Sportsbook. We go ham.
Hell.
There you go.
All right. Good.